Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets, or if you're on YouTube, you might be watching this on Viper Magic channel as well. I'm posting it everywhere because it's both video games and comic books. Today we're talking the Marvel Spider-Man game on the PlayStation 4, which I picked up a PlayStation 4 a few months ago specifically so I could play Spider-Man starting the day it came out. I just beat it last night. 2 nights ago I beat the story and I platinumed it last night. That is my first platinum trophy on the PlayStation. I think it's really which basically means you got all the achievements and stuff like that, but it's probably one of the few games where I actively, checked off all the boxes, whether it's on PlayStation or Xbox, just because it was it was easy to get. There wasn't anything ridiculous like, do a 500, combo, do a 150 combo, find all the frickin' Riddler trophies in this game. Thanks, Arkham. Any Arkham game that's out there is ridiculous because they don't tell you where they are. But I really enjoyed this game. I played Spider-Man 2 back in the day a little bit and thought the swinging was pretty good for the PlayStation 2. That's really the one that revolutionized Spider-Man games, where you could freely swing around the entire city of Manhattan Island anyway. And it actually had physics-based system, and the webs attached to something. You could like aim and steer yourself around buildings and all this momentum that comes into play. This game is kind of like the return to that. I don't know if other games have had it or as good as this, but this game definitely feels good. It's got a great web swinging system, and that's mainly the reason why this game is so fun to play, is because it is so fun to swing around the city of Manhattan, the island of Manhattan in this game. And wall crawl, and really I don't remember. I did not do a whole lot of wall crawling. It was web zipping up buildings or running up buildings and then jumping up the top and then diving over the bottom and stuff like that. There's a couple of stealth elements in this game I thought were kind of cool. They're not as inventive as the ones in the Arkham games with Batman, because the web gadgets really don't lend themselves to stealth as much as they do to just combat in general. And the way the city is set up, like Arkham, whenever you're doing a stealth section, there were all these interactables and things, walls you can knock down, and glasses you could break, or other stuff that you could do to get guys' attention or take them out. Whereas the Spider-Man game is simply like, you're above them, you can either kick them down in the face and then jump back up, or you can web them to a wall, or web them to whatever you're perched on with. You throw them down, you bring them up, you knock them out, you web them up, that kind of thing. So it's a little more basic than the Arkham games, but it's enjoyable at the same time. I thought the combat was very, very good once you got the hang of it. And I say got the hang of it not because it's difficult, but because most people like you and me probably have played the Arkham games, or a combat system that borrowed from it, like Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor, where there's a counter button and it acts as a dodge and an attack button at the same time. You move during an attack and you hit him at the same time. It's a counter. Whereas the Spider-Man game does not have a counter button per se, but it's a dodge button. So I was using it as a counter button, and every time I would see the spider sense go off above his head, and I would get hit in the face because Spider-Man never hit back. So I learned it's dodge out of the way and then attack something else, or dodge and then press square to attack again. So you have to remember that when you're playing this game, if you haven't already started playing it. It's a dodge button, not a counter button. But other than that, the combat's very similar to Batman Arkham, but it is more focused on aerialness. Whereas like Batman, you're on the ground, you're beating guys up, you're flipping over them, you're using your gadgets left and right. This one, they encourage you to knock guys up into the air, and then you're less, you can't get hit from behind if you're in the air with the guy you're attacking and you're beating him up, whatever. So they focus on that a whole lot more. And that's fine, it's okay. I thought it was a little weird that they're like, knock everybody you fight in the air. I'm like, that's not Spider-Man. Spider-Man would be doing what Batman did in those other games. You'd be flipping around. But I guess since we've had 4 Arkham games, technically, people would compare it to that if that's really what the combat system was focused around. And they want you to be in the air, they want you to be web swinging and stuff like that. You do have web gadgets in this game. I do think they're a little cumbersome to use. Like the Arkham game, you have your controller and you hold down L2 or R2, whatever it was, and then you press the corresponding button during combat or even outside combat, and Batman, one of them was for the ice, one of them was for the explosive, one of them was for a batarang, one of them was for the electroshock kind of thing. Whereas the Spider-Man game, it's not that fluid. You can't just flip around and, you know, do this, this, and this, and this. You have to actually hold L1 and select from a gadget wheel which one you want to use. Then you release it, and then that one is mapped to R1, and then you use up it, and then you got to hold down again. It kind of pauses combat, switch to a different gadget. So if you're using a lot of gadgets during combat, you're going to do very well, but it's going to slow down the combat, which I didn't like as much. But this game is so much fun, and the story is so-so. It's pretty good for a Spider-Man story. It didn't blow me away like the Arkham games did, but for a first outing of a game, totally serviceable story, pretty good in fact, and it has, you know, it doesn't pull any punches, which did surprise me. So there are surprises in here. So I would say it's a more than just pretty good. It's a good story. So we'll give it a good rating on the story there. But the combat, the traversal, all this stuff is an A+ effort here from Sony and Insomniac Games. So full credit to those guys. You should know going in, I guess, if you're expecting the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City experience, where it's a tour de force, where you visit all the rogues gallery, this is not that game. So know that going in. There are Spider-Man villains in there. They do appear. And when they're used, they are used well, and there are memorable experiences surrounding them. But it's not like Arkham. So take that as you will, and go like that. So quit comparing it to Arkham, I guess, should be the main thing we're telling everybody. But, you know, all in all, it's a great thing. I love the costumes. I did not rock the White Spider at all. In fact, if you have watched my YouTube videos, you know that I'm pretty much against the White Spider. I rocked it, and as soon as I could change out, I did, and I never went back to that thing again. I rocked the Scarlet Spider outfit. I rocked the Alex Ross redesigned Spider Armor Mark IV or something like that. It's the shiny version of the regular Spider-Man suit with the glowy spider. I rocked Spider-Man 2099, the white version. I like that one a lot better than I do the blue one. Never was a 2099 kid. I rocked the Infinity War Spider Armor for a little bit. And what else did I like? The stealth suit. I didn't really like the negative suit or anything like that. The Black Cat suit I got pretty early in the game, and I rocked that for a long time. What's cool about all these different suits, depending on which one you have, if you have one of them that has like the lenses or black outline around the eye, like Scarlet Spider doesn't have it, Spider-Man 2099 does not have it. But if you've got what looks like a regular Spider-Man eye mask kind of thing as part of that suit, during the cutscenes, just like if you were to wear the regular white suit, your eye will contract and stuff like that. And so you can get a more expressive cutscene. But just the fact that these cutscenes take place in the game engine and are not pre-rendered, based on the fact that whatever costume you're wearing when the cutscene starts is the one that you're wearing in the cutscene and interacting with, is really, really cool and really well done, and shows how much care Insomniac, you know, put into this game to make you feel like you weren't playing a game, that you were Spider-Man. Because it would have taken you out of the game if you'd started the cutscene and your costume automatically switches back to the White Spider. But the coolest thing, I think, about these alternate costumes, unlike the Arkham games, which is just an alternate costume, that's all it is that each of these costumes unlock a new suit ability for you to use as you see fit. And most of them are good, some of them are great, some of them I didn't really use. Like, there's one, you get like a cel-shaded version of the original Spider-Man suit, and its ability is quips, which basically you press down, you know, L1 and R or 3 or whatever these are called on PlayStation, your thumbsticks, to use any of these abilities. But on that particular one, Spider-Man just starts joking around. Doesn't do any damage, doesn't do anything, but it is a little funny. But a lot of them are really cool. Like, you get the Web Blossom early on. That saved my butt early in this game before I had figured out that this was in fact the dodge button and not the counter button. You know, 'cause I was getting beat up pretty bad. And I would jump up, web everybody, and then I would basically eliminate all but 1 or 2 of the enemies, and then I could handle them. Until I got good, and then I got good and I didn't need to use it that much. But so I think that part of, you know, here's a new suit ability along with this suit is really cool. All the collectibles I think are really well done. There's not, you know, there are a lot of different types of them, but there are not a ton of them. You know, like, they introduced collectible pigeons. Go and catch these pigeons for the pigeon guy that lives over there. I was like, oh my gosh, how many of these things are spread around the city? I was picturing the Riddler trophies from the Arkham series, but no, there's only 12, and that's a manageable thing to go collect and knock out. So that's kind of, most of these things are, 12 of them, 24, multiples of that, but on a smaller number than you would think. There's not 50 of one thing and 100 of another and things like that. And also I like the way that they spread out the collectibles in this game. Like, you start out and you have landmarks and backpacks. You can knock all of them out if you want to, like I did, before you move on to the next story mission. Or you can, go to the next story mission and then unlock more and more and more. And then if you didn't do anything as you went along, might be overwhelmed at the end of the story, because you have research stations and challenge missions from Marvel villain, whom I'm not going to spoil here. You would have, the different dens, like you go and fight the Demon Gang, you fight the Wilson Fisk Gang, you go and fight Silver Sable's gang, and was there one more after that? I think that's it. But all these different bases and stuff, the pigeons, backpacks, landmarks, all this different stuff. And prisoners, there's a whole bunch of stuff here to do. And also you're stopping random crimes on the street per sector of the city of Manhattan, or island of Manhattan. There's a whole lot to do there. So if you you could probably get overwhelmed if they were all unlocked at the very beginning of the game, but I like the way that they, as you went along through the story, it's, oh yeah, here's another thing you can do, here's another thing you can do, here's another thing you can do. And since it took me a week and a half, 2 weeks to beat this game, it was kind of nice because it stretched the game out longer, and I took my time, and as they introduced the new collectible, I went and got half of them before I did another story mission and stuff like that. But all in all, this is a great Spider-Man game. Go pick this up. This is a system seller for PlayStation. It was for me. I only bought a PlayStation so I could play this game. It is only on PlayStation, so go pick it up just for that reason. So I would give this game like 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's a great game. So go pick up Spider-Man if you haven't already. Thanks for you guys for watching, and as always, I will see you guys on the other side.